Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
Welcome to Duck Insider.
Man, it feels great to be a Duck.
Give it to me, baby. My house. I'm taking it there.
Their competitors, they'll want to put the O on.
Three, got it!
We're going to compete to a standard every day.
The Oregon standard.
Rebound. Up and in. 1 point more to go.
The opportunity to play, put Oregon on your chest, should mean a great deal to you.
Unloads on one into left field, back toward the wall. Gone!
This program is staged to compete and to win championships.
Oregon wins!
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, let's talk Oregon athletics.
Hello, everybody, and welcome inside the studio, Duck Insider. I'm Jordan Brenner. I'm in for the rest of the week. Joey down traveling. He might already be. Yeah, he's already down in the Bay Area, getting ready for a big basketball game tonight against Cal, 7 o'clock, 6:30 on the pregame show. Going to be a fun show today. Rob Moseley is going to join us in about 10 minutes. We'll break all sorts of hoop stuff down. We'll also break down the football schedule release, and I'll do my best to do that here at the top as well. And we may get to N'Faly Dante, an interview with him on Tip-Off Tuesday for the last segment of the show. Now, the Oregon football schedule release. I hear from a lot of people, well, does it really matter? I think it does. I think it matters a lot. I'm going to zag from that. I think it matters a whole lot, the order of the games that you play. I'll break that down again. We'll hear from Rob about that too. Let's go ahead and look at the schedule first, and I'll read through it. That's how we'll get going. Portland State on the 2nd, at Texas Tech, home Hawaii on September 16th. September 23rd, Pac-12 opener against Colorado at Autzen. Stanford, bye week, Washington State, Utah, Cal, USC, Arizona State, and then that big rematch, Black Friday, November 24th against Oregon State. So before we go game by game into this schedule, here's my main takeaway. You look at the powers of this conference, and I think it's fair to assume the powers are going to be the same next year as this year, maybe a couple changes, but you look at Utah, you look at Washington, you look at Oregon State, you look at UCLA, you look at USC. Oregon doesn't play any of those teams consecutively next year, and that's different than this year, where they had that 3-game gauntlet at the end of the season with Washington, Utah, and Oregon State all in a row. Now, is that better or is that worse? Well, I think it could probably go either way. You could make an argument for both. The reason why playing those teams consecutively is better is, well, you could get on a run. You can get hot, and you're building momentum to the next game. Now, this past season, that's not how it worked. Playing those teams consecutively actually was a negative because you get banged up in those big games. Those are the most physical games. This past year, they were the coldest games. And, Oregon wasn't healthy enough to go through that 3-game gauntlet. So I think that's a positive next year that Oregon, you get a huge game, you get a softer game. You get a big game again, you get to take a little bit of a break. Let's go game by game, though, and we'll start with Portland State on September 2nd. And if you're looking for tickets, well, if they're open to the public. So go to GoDucks.com/FBTix to secure your 2023 tickets. You can get your season tickets if you're already a season ticket holder or if you're trying to become a season ticket holder. If you go to that website, there will be a link for both season ticket renewals and for the public trying to get it for the first time. So Portland State, September 2nd, a home game. Then a home game against Hawaii. Safe to say that's a easier start to the season, at least compared to this year. So those are the first 2 home games. Sandwiched in the middle of those games, Texas Tech on the road, a Pac-12, Big 12 showdown. Many believe that Tech will be a top 25 team at that point in the season. They ended this year with a 4-game winning streak, a convincing 42-25 bowl victory against Jackson Dart and Ole Miss. Going to see our old friend Tyler Shuck. Shuck started to play great football at the end of last season. Named the 2022 TaxAct Texas Bowl MVP. 353 yards of total offense in that win against Ole Miss. So Texas Tech riding a lot of momentum, and they're going to be trying to get their first ever win against Oregon. The Ducks 2-0 all-time against Texas Tech with wins before I was born in 91 and 92. All-time against the Big 12, Oregon, 6-6. Should be a shootout early in the season. That's one I'm looking forward to against Texas Tech. A top 25 matchup. That's my expectation. Hawaii at home on the 16th after that, and then Oregon starts off Pac-12 play with a primetime showdown against Colorado. And I think this could be a challenging matchup. You look at the transfers that Colorado has already brought in, some of the best in the country, and this isn't going to be Colorado's first swing at it of the season. Listen to this start of the season for Coach Prime. A lot of primetime matchups. I'm sorry, that's the last time I'm going to do it. At TCU, home Nebraska, home Colorado State before they travel to Oregon. So going to see a college football playoff team, a Big Ten team. We'll see how good Nebraska is. I mean, that's you should just flip a coin. That's a better way of predicting that. But that's quite the start. And then after Oregon, by the way, Colorado hosts USC. So that's quite the start to that era for Coach Deion Sanders. After Colorado, Oregon gets new head coach Troy Taylor from Sacramento State and Stanford. That's on the 30th. Again, a down game, then a bye week before maybe a battle of unbeatens. We'll see. A lot has to happen. But Washington on October 14th. That's a huge game up in Seattle. Washington, I think they'll be unbeaten. We'll see. I hope they're not unbeaten. I hope they lose every possible game. But it feels like a decent chance that they will be. Now, a couple non-conference challenges for them. Boise State and Seattle. And then they go to East Lansing to face Michigan State. We'll see what that program looks like next year, but could be a marquee matchup for the Pac-12 between Oregon and Washington, and hopefully, at least on Oregon's side, an unbeaten team. After that, Oregon against Washington State. Always nice to face the Cougars at Autzen Stadium. It's not an easy place to go to and play in Pullman. Found that out last year. Got the win. Wasn't easy. My heart skipped a couple beats when I was up there on the sideline at Washington State. That was terrifying. Thank you, Mace Funa. I appreciate that. Thank you, Troy Franklin. Oh, man. Just memories from that ball game. Washington State at Autzen Stadium. Hopefully I'm not jinxing it, but it's always nice when you get to play the Cougs in Eugene. And that's before a heavyweight matchup at Utah. Now, Kyle Whittingham, he spoke to the press this week. He said that Cam Rising, he's probably going to miss all of spring ball. But that game against Utah, not until October 28th. So the expectation is that when those two teams battle it out in Salt Lake City, Cam Rising's going to be playing football. He'll probably be all systems go at that point in the season. We'll see. Just suffered a significant leg injury, but I think he will probably be back and playing for that ball game. Then Oregon hosts Cal before another big one. November 11th. Get your tickets now. USC coming to town. Lincoln Riley. Dan Lanning. That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. Now, USC has a huge advantage in their schedule. So they play a week 0 game next year. They get their first bye of the season after the Stanford game, before the Arizona State game for them. Now they get another bye before the conference title game. Should they play in the conference title game? And that's a big question. So that's a huge advantage for the Trojans. Now, whether they will get to the conference title is a better question. Listen to the end of USC's schedule in order. At Notre Dame, host Utah at Cal. Don't sleep on that one. I know I always defend Cal. If you follow the show, if you follow picks, I pick Cal every week. Sorry my sister went to Cal. My dad went to Cal. I have a soft spot for the Golden Bears, but don't sleep on that one. Cal challenged USC in Los Angeles this past year. After that, home Washington, at Oregon, home UCLA. So in order, Notre Dame, Utah, Cal, Washington, Oregon, UCLA. Good luck, USC. I hope you fail miserably. At Arizona State for the Ducks after the USC game, a meeting with Kenny Dillingham. That'll be fun in the desert before Oregon plays on Black Friday against the Beavers. Now, the Beavers have a pretty favorable schedule next year. Washington, Utah, UCLA, they all play at Reser Stadium. They dodge USC, and they play some of the traditional powers at home. It's an easy schedule. That is until the 24th of November when they travel to Autzen Stadium to face Oregon. Revenge. Already thinking about it. Revenge for the Ducks. So there's your Oregon football schedule. It's not too early to start talking about it. It is important. Don't let people tell you it's not. And, yeah, fun stuff. Always fun to look ahead to next year. Let's get a break. Rob Moseley is going to join us after this break. We'll talk football. We'll talk basketball on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Back here in the Country Financial Studio, Duck Insider is brought to you by On Point Community Credit Union, joined by the editor of GoDucks.com, Rob Moseley. Always appreciate you stopping by the studio. More than usual to talk about today. A football schedule release.
There's always great stuff to talk about.
True, but more than usual today. How are things going this morning? It sounded like you had a little bit of a coffee fiasco right before you entered the studio.
I spilled coffee on my lap like 3 minutes ago.
Was it hot coffee?
Not at this point in the day. Yeah, I mean, it's a thermal mug, but yeah, it's.
I actually like hotter coffee later in the day, colder coffee to wake me up in the morning. Am I crazy? Scott's saying I'm crazy. Ryan's saying I'm crazy.
Somebody.
No, that's not a flag.
I think when I worked. Whoa, he just threw the flag back. I think that's like a technical. That's a personal foul. No, I think Bob Clark, when I used to work at the Register Guard, posited that your first cup of coffee of the day may as well just be hot water, because it's like physiologically it's the hot water that like kind of jolts you awake, not the caffeine at that point. And I was young and impressionable, so that always stuck with me.
And was that based in
I'm an absolute
science?
moron when it comes to science.
Okay.
So
Me too.
Yeah, I could not vouch for that. So I just sort of was like, oh, all right.
Well, even though you're an absolute moron with science, you make up for it in other areas.
Try to. Yeah, do we have time for a digression?
Of course we do.
So some of us around the office have a weekly trivia night. And usually, most weeks we would go Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
But
not tonight.
There's a game tonight.
Yeah.
So we moved up to Tuesday last night, and there was a science category, and we did not do well. We won the evening's competition overall. There may have been some scoring shenanigans that we benefited from. Not that we pointed them out at the time. But
of course.
We won despite there's like 7 categories, and you get 10 questions in each category, and I think we got 3 right in science.
That's not very good.
No, but the last 3 categories were science, poetry, and the Bible. None of the 3 of those, as literate as I like to think I am, I'm not a big poetry guy.
No.
And I'm not cards on the table. I'm not the most religious person on the planet. So I was really worried about that. But we did great in poetry. We were passable in the Bible, but science, no.
Ugly.
No, bad, yeah.
So I know when I go to trivia, I'm like a role player.
Uh-huh.
There are my categories I'm going to excel at, and I'm going to do my part for the team. But
Yeah.
I'm not clearing out and taking 20 shots. Are you a role player or are you a team leader?
How do I answer this? I'm kind of more of a leader.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leader on a good team, or are you just
We're okay. We're usually like on the podium.
You're selling
and
tickets.
then every once in a while we break through for a win. A couple of months. Kind of depends on the location and the other teams that are there.
The weather,
the categories.
Yeah.
I'm old, man. So like I know stuff.
Yeah.
I remember stuff from like the 90s that other people might not.
So long ago?
Because they're younger, yeah. No, there's a category last night. One of the categories was the 2000s. And one person on my team pointed out that she was 2 years old in 2000. And I was 24 in 2000. So different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that
different
person
memories
sounds
of
like,
those.
So that person sounds like they're older than me.
Yeah.
So, hey, I appreciate your young soul, your young brain. You keep it light.
Try to, but also you benefit from age and quote unquote wisdom.
No doubt.
At least in that form. Anyway,
well, here's to more trivia victories moving forward.
Absolutely. Cheers to that.
Okay. Football schedule release.
Yes.
So I think it matters. A lot of people say, oh, it doesn't matter. We'll play who's across. We already pretty much knew the opponents, whatever it is. I think it's a big deal, the order in which you play your games. Were there any major takeaways that you had from this release this morning?
I don't know if I'm on the same page there, but I definitely think there's things you look for. You look for, when is your bye week? You look for when do you play your rivals and how are those games spaced out? You look for, home and away and kind of how those are spaced out. So, maybe, when are you going to Pullman? What time of year are you going to Boulder? What time of year are you going to Utah? I mean, those are the sorts of things that, my eyes will usually gravitate towards regarding a schedule. And yeah, from where I sit, it has to be pretty egregious for me to look at a schedule and
have a huge take about
right.
it.
Yeah. As I've said before, I'm not much of a take guy anyway. So, I'd probably do err toward a little more of just, hey, that's okay. Hey, that's the order of the games. Cool. Let's go. Let's play them. But yeah, there's certainly some things you look at in terms of you want to at least make sure things are equitable in terms of, when bye weeks are, kind of how your home and away games are spaced out. And then, I look for where rivalry games are just mostly because I really look forward to those games. And it's like, okay, when are those going to be? Not necessarily who's before and after that or anything. How those are grouped.
Is this a traditional setup for an Oregon football schedule? Is there such thing as a traditional setup? Like I see the Washington games a little bit earlier this year. I don't know if that's traditional.
That's been the opener, going back 15 years or so. So, yeah, I think as long as the Oregon State game's at the end, you have that. When Oregon State's at home, it means you're going to have a good road game against another Power 5 team, which you've got at Texas Tech, and then a couple of home games against kind of a mid-major, and then, with all due respect, kind of a low major, in basketball terms. Those are the sorts of things you come to. I would say this, kind of a normal schedule.
So, I think the one thing I looked at immediately was, well, compared to this year where you have Washington, Utah, and Oregon State all in a row, the projected ranked teams, and everything can kind of change next year. It's ranked, unranked. It's kind of like that. The fact that they played those 3 games in a row, at least last year, really beat up Oregon. They got injured in those games. And, maybe that's an advantage next year, but it could go either way.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about that late in the season, everybody's beat up, and I just think, it didn't matter who Oregon was playing at that point in the year. If Bo Nix is healthy, the Ducks were winning those games. And Bo Nix wasn't healthy, so the Ducks dropped 2 of those 3. And I'm not sure kind of who you were playing mattered as much. It does seem like some funky things happen injury-wise against UW, but that's kind of transcended coaching staffs and things like that. So maybe it's just, hey, it's a rivalry. It's a really heated rival, so some guys are going to do a little extra. So I don't know, not to excuse anything like that, but again, that's not something I looked at so much as to me that one thing that kind of jumps out is you got a bunch of home games early, you got a bunch of home games late, and then we're going to go almost a month between home games. It's going to when you have a road game, then the open week, then a road game, that it's going to feel like we haven't been in Autzen Stadium forever. But then it's 4 of the last 6 are at home, and that's
awesome. An advantage.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's when you want to be playing at Autzen.
Yeah.
All right, we got a lot of hoops to talk about, but let's get a break in between. We'll talk about the men's game tonight against Cal at 7. That's all coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear winter, Toyota's got 20 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action, and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/22.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
Dear winter, Toyota's got 20 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive, and that's more than any other auto brand. So you bring the action, and we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer's websites as of 11/21/22.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
To your children's eyes to see the true magic of a forest. It's a storybook world for them. You look and see a tree. They see the wrinkled face of a wizard with arms outstretched to the sky. They see treasure in pebbles. They see a windy path that could lead to adventure. And they see you, their fearless guide through this fascinating world.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt US Kids, and the Ad Council.
Talking with Rob Moseley on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield inside the Country Financial Studios. All right, Rob, big game tonight for men's basketball, and credit to the team for somehow, some way, leaving that Arizona State loss, processing it, and then coming back with the performance of the season against Arizona. Does that boggle the mind at all, the fact that they were able to come back from that? I know they did it the week before.
Yeah.
And almost in a way, the fact that it happened 2 weeks in a row where you get blown out Thursday, then you win the next game of the weekend.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's leaving a lot of people confused. What's your perspective?
No doubt. My thought with that Arizona State game is they just were out of their minds.
Yeah.
And
they're a good team.
They are. They are a quality team. They're not as good as they looked that night. And I think we saw the way they struggled. We saw some kind of regression to the mean in Corvallis, the way they struggled to get through that game. I kept waiting for that regression to the mean to happen in the second half here, and it was like, oh, we're going to be able to get back into this game because there's no way they can keep shooting like that, and they did. It was just – it was clear they weren't going to miss. I mean, they were taking some circus shots. The Harlem Globetrotters are here, tomorrow?
I think tomorrow night.
That felt like a Globetrotters game.
Yeah.
And we weren't the Globetrotters.
You could kind of just see it in their step and their
celebration.
Absolutely.
I mean,
they were feeling it in the second.
And sometimes a team gets going, and it's like you get punched in the face, and it's like, well, they're clearly just not going to stop punching me in the face, so I can either keep getting punched in the face or kind of dial it back a little bit. And I thought, you want to see competitive fire, but I think human nature was like, well, they're not missing. Like, what are we supposed to do, You're going to lag back a little bit. And who knows? Maybe the mental reset starts even while that game's going on. Well, this ain't happening. We got to turn our attention to even in this weekend. And I think just the way the matchup's set up, style of play, kind of the Arizona matchup was probably a little more favorable. Certainly, that's an immensely talented team, so I don't mean to suggest it that way. But just in terms of style of play and strengths and, having, the post players they did and, it might have been a little more favorable a matchup, and then they just brought it. And the point I keep making is for as frustrating as this season's been, as much of a roller coaster as it's been, it's possible that that's who this team is. It's possible that 2 months from now we'll be like, yeah, that's when we finally knew kind of who these guys were because everyone was available. Finally, kind of the injury bug, you started to get over that. You're able to take some pressure off Will Richardson by having some other ball handlers out there, some other guys, some other shooters out there. You tinker with the lineup out there. I mean, it seemed like Nate Biddle really responded like you want to see someone respond to getting an opportunity in the lineup.
Seeing one go in for him, I thought, really changed things. And I said this to Joey yesterday. You remember when Luke King all of a sudden started hitting threes in that January, February turnaround, the team goes to the Sweet 16.
I mean, I remember that year, yeah.
He just, all of a sudden, they went in.
Yeah.
It feels like Nate Biddle's that type of streaky shooter. Maybe he could provide something like that for the team. That's what you'd hope for.
Yeah, for sure. And, a guy his size, there's other things you got to do. You got to be able to, defend, use that length on defense. You got to be able to board as well. I don't want to see a 6'11" guy just camping out, jacking up threes, hoping a few go in. And, and I think Coach Altman's point all along with Biddle is that his ceiling is so high that, if he can start, he's just scratching the surface. And, if he can do what he needs to do to take advantage of his immense talents, he can really be a player. And, yeah, maybe, hey, you'd like the light to go on all the time, but maybe that kind of opportunity is exactly what he needed to be like, all right, now I need here's my chance, the door's open, I'm going to barge through it. And Kuznard, obviously, he's probably not going to shoot like that every night, but hopefully you don't need him to shoot like that every night. It helps when you're trying to knock off a highly rated team like that. And most nights, hopefully you don't need him to go 6 a night. I feel like that's what gives you a chance to win. But yeah, when he throws in that 3/4 court half lob and it goes in, it was like, oh yeah, things are rolling. Things are going the right way. Yeah. Sometimes it feels like nothing's going your way, like against Arizona State, and sometimes it feels like everything's going your way, as it did against Arizona. So this tonight against Cal becomes a huge kind of show me game. Like, all right, is that who you were? Is that who you can be? And can you be that every night? Because if you can be that every night, this could still be a pretty special season.
Yeah.
But if you fall flat tonight, then it's like, well, shoot, you're just going to stay on the roller coaster all year? Like, what? Why is that a thing?
That'd be frustrating.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. So it struck me listening to Dana Altman after the Arizona State loss, clearly frustrated.
Yep.
Or maybe he said this after the Arizona game, but he kind of had to clear his head. He hops in the car, drives for a while. Great quote from Coach Altman. Ultimately, I think the thing that he realized and communicated to the team that made a real difference is, hey, we got to be physical. Don't be afraid to use your fouls. That clicked with Dante. He talked about it.
Yeah.
He played a physical game.
But just kind of we went through 2 months where the message was probably like, hey, we got like 8 guys.
Right.
We got to.
That's a good point.
We can't be over aggressive. That's not. Again, kind of human nature is it's going to be hard to kind of reverse that thinking. And so you kind of understand ASU being the very first game where kind of everybody was available. You had all hands on deck. You can kind of understand someone like Dante who's been playing with this other mindset all year because of the lack of bodies. Taking a while to switch it to like, oh no, you can go hard and don't worry about fouling.
Yeah.
We got guys that can spell you. So yeah, that was just a good reminder of just kind of so many different facets and challenges and variables that can play into games that have to be accounted for by coaches and players, and to kind of take advantage of each moment. And yeah, tonight's a little bit of a short, quick turnaround, being a Wednesday game, you're in the Bay Area, which is, been a tougher place to play. It's been a tough road trip for this program. Odds are it's not going to be the most hostile environment you've ever played in. So you might have to kind of create your own energy a little bit, which can be a challenge sometimes. So, as Joey Mack and I talked on the Quack Minute, it was, for Dante particularly, it was kind of personal in a lot of ways against Arizona. The kid he dunked over, he clearly wanted to dunk over because, that guy's kind of a pest.
Sure.
And the big for Arizona, who was a fellow native of Mali, like Impali was, he had a lot of reasons to be up for that game. Well, just because those factors might not be in play, the rest of the schedule, you still got to find ways to get up. So it's going to be such a revealing night for the program tonight at Cal.
Yeah, and then, an extra day off before Stanford, that could go either way too. One last question for me on the men's side. Jermaine's back, Keyshawn's back. How does that specifically change things for Will Richardson moving forward?
Yeah, I think you saw it last week. He's playing off the ball more. We know from earlier in his career what kind of a three-point threat he can be, as kind of a complementary guard when he was playing next to Peyton Pritchard. He can be a guy who plays kind of an off-guard role and is a scorer and a shooter. There's been times when, even recently, when it's like, hey, we need somebody who can get to the rim. Will might be the best option right now. He's so good at that, at kind of probing a defense, getting into the lane, and then pulling up and making a little bunny. And if he hasn't had to expend a ton of energy bringing the ball up against a ton of pressure, which he was doing so much, and you might anticipate some defensive changes now that, there's different options on Oregon's side in terms of handling the ball. But that just leaves more in his legs for trying to be a scorer too. So yeah, he had so much on his plate for a couple months there, and I'm sure he enjoyed it. I think guys want the ball in their hands. Competitors want the ball in their hands. I'm sure he enjoyed it, and he wasn't complaining. But in a way, I'm happy for him too now that he can kind of flourish under different circumstances.
So the women split at home against Washington, another team that's kind of banged up right now. That really came into play with Filipina getting hurt against Washington State for the fourth quarter. Can you just kind of give me a state of the union for this program? It feels like they're a little bit in the mud the last 2 weeks. But, you get healthy. The ceiling's still incredibly high, it feels like.
Yeah, I think they have to understand that and appreciate that, and just understand, too, what it's going to take. I think they're still trying to find a way to kind of tap into playing together as a team and getting the most out of all their various abilities. I mean, I was just talking to someone else in the office, against Washington State, one team, the sum was greater than the whole of its parts, and one team the sum was lesser than the whole of its parts, and we saw which one won. It wasn't the one with the better parts. It was the one with the better whole. Washington State was just playing so well together, and Kelly Graves was just really complimentary after the game of just they know what they want to do and they execute it, and everybody plays their role and nobody tries to do too much or isn't kind of on the same page with everyone else or whatever the scout is, the game plan is, all that. And so I think, or on the Oregon side, you just need a full commitment to like, okay, here's who we are, here's what we want to do, here's what your job is, here's what your job is, here's what your job is. If everybody just does that, yeah, this can be a really, really quality team. Obviously, Philly plays such a huge role on the boards and post defense. I think Grace Van Sluten, for all her ability right now and everything she's done has been so impressive, just had a hard time replicating that presence that Philly is as a post defender when Philly was out late in that game and Washington State kind of went to work in the post. And so, if she's questionable, that's a problem. And, particularly you're going against an Oregon State team that's, kind of made its reputation under Scott Rueck of great post play. And so, that's, Friday's going to be really revealing for the women as well.
So even with that brutal loss against Washington State, one that, it was just an up and down roller coaster of emotions, so many positives to take away. The fact that you can get up off the floor and very nearly complete that historic comeback, and Grace can step up and hit 2 pressure-packed free throws. It's hard to leave that game feeling with it's hard to leave that game with a huge bitter taste, I feel like, because of those positives.
I'll add my standard weekly caveat with that program. My wife being their director of operations, I live and die with them a little more than everyone else. And, I had a hard time getting really excited about the comeback because I just viewed that through the prism of the rest of the game. Like, why weren't you could have and probably should have been doing that for 40 minutes. And if you had been, the game might have gone the way kind of the UW game did, until Huskies kind of closed the gap there in the middle of the fourth quarter. And then in some ways it was like, well, if Taya Hansen doesn't get hot from 3 late in the UW game, you might have gotten swept by the Huskies and Cougars this weekend at home.
Yeah.
Which would have been a really, really bad circumstance in terms of kind of where this season could go and should go. So, I was pretty deflated Sunday night. Just, it was fun to have the drama at the end. Kind of feeling like, from my perspective, given the clock issues, it was officiated correctly from that point on. How the clock issues took place, I don't exactly know, but given the fact that time stopped, the clock, paused for a second during the flow of play, you have to stop the clock. The whistle came before the shot. I didn't think there was any real controversy about all those elements of it, so I couldn't really get. I was more hung up on kind of not getting it done for probably 32 of the 45 minutes of that game than kind of the gumption they showed, kind of the middle, second quarter, third quarter parts where it seemed like they started to get it rolling, and then kind of late in regulation to make it dramatic again.
And this is one that you can't let sit with you. I mean, you go to Corvallis on Friday, that's, from minute number 1, just going to be a war between those two teams.
Yeah, I kind of wish that game was like, I don't know how the scheduling goes, but it would have been nice if that was like a Saturday or a Sunday game, just to give a little more time, kind of emotionally to pick yourself up, but also, it's no secret how beat up Grace Van Sluten has been, and then Philly, coming off having to be in concussion protocol after that Washington State game. A little bit more time before getting back on the court might have been nice, particularly when there's only one game this week. The later the better, but still this is still, you're going to have kind of 4 days to kind of refresh mentally and refresh physically to the extent you can, and kind of get yourself geared back up. But you got to do it. I mean, there's no excuses. You gotta find a way to try to get it done in what's going to be probably a pretty rowdy environment. Unlike what the men are going to face, the women can probably count on a pretty rowdy environment and a really motivated team to get some vengeance.
Feels like it's going to be a defining week of the season for both the men and the women.
Yeah.
And
not maybe not one where 2 months from now we're talking about this week, unless it's bad. Like you can't get where you want to go this week, but you can really keep yourself from getting where you want to go this week. So you got to take care of business.
No doubt. He's Rob Moseley, editor of GoDucks.com. Rob, thanks for the time. We'll get a break. Come back. Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
This is Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
This is an important message from the Mine Safety and Health Administration. Mining fatalities, accidents, and injuries are preventable. Taking a minute to approach your task safely can protect you and your fellow miners from injury and death. Staying alert and focused can keep you safe. Do it safe. Do it right. Whether buckling a seatbelt or securing equipment, these quick safety measures can prevent injuries and fatalities. Take time. Save lives. For more resources, visit MSHA.gov.
Farming is dangerous. There's dangers all around us.
We go through safety training and try and do these things to make sure accidents don't happen.
You don't want to hit a gas pipe because that's your life. The other part of it is if you hit certain things, you're liable for it.
Farm Safe 811 starts with you. Always call 811 and wait for any underground lines to be marked.
Always keep safety in the back of your mind. Just stay humble.
For more information, go to farmsafe811.org.
Welcome back inside to the Duck Insider Studios, Country Financial Studios. A reminder from Jackson's Duck fans, the official 2022 Oregon football trading cards are now available exclusively at your local Oregon Jackson food stores. The cards feature over 100 of your favorite Duck football student athletes, and 1 out of every 10 packs will contain a special edition signed card. So be sure to collect them all to complete your set. Visit jacksons.com for store locations. Jacksons, let's go. Let's go to Mfali Dante. Was in the studio yesterday. I thought it was great to hear a little bit about his background and obviously that poster dunk that was all over social media. Here's Mfali Dante.
All right, first of all, you've made the trek across the river before class. We're talking Tuesday morning. Dante, thanks for being here, buddy. How are things? You good?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
I'm great, you know.
Coming off a nice win. Let's just get this done early, okay? So I said on Twitter, and I mean this sincerely, thanks for making my job fun.
Oh, yeah, of course, man. You know, it's good to have you around all the time. It's
well,
great.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's walk fans through something here. So you've seen the highlight that our guy Carter put together. I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
We're going to play it for you again. So, I mean, this is amazing. Everyone just take a listen, take a watch.
Into the lane, bounce pass, Dante, slam! Good find. Ducks steal it in transition. Dante to the bucket. What a poster slam! And Folly Dante.
Okay.
Intercepted in transition.
How many times?
Took it in.
have you seen the clip now? And how many times have you gotten texts from people about it?
Man, I don't I don't even know. I still haven't responded to some people. It's not like I don't want to respond, but like it's a lot of text. So,
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, you deserve it. You had a play like that before? Like, have you had a dunk like that in a game before?
Not exactly like this, but yeah, I had some crazy ones, not like that one for sure.
How, when you see the ball thrown ahead, when Krisa throws it and you grab it, what goes through your mind in that moment? Like, take us through the entire play if you could.
Well, first play they got dunked, and I was I got dunked on.
Yeah.
So the guy who did it is from Mali,
Yeah.
and I'm from Mali. I was like, you know what, whatever like I need to do to help my team win, I'm gonna do it.
Love that.
So after I dunk it, and then I try to get back in defense, and we was in the zone. So I saw him throw the ball. It's a long pass, and I decided to grab it, and then Will was in front of me. I was trying to pass it to Will, but the guy who passed it was really late. I was like, you know what, I'm going to just go for it. And then the person who passed it, I'm not a big fan of him.
Yeah, I know.
It's not, nah.
It's one of those plays that I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, Dante, that we will see that highlight up on the scoreboard at Matthew Knight Arena for years to come. I'm not kidding. Like you're gonna come back. You'll be playing professionally. You're gonna come back, and that highlight's gonna play as part of the intro video. So well done.
Yeah,
so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Dante, what went so right in the game against Arizona? How were you guys able to play the way that you were?
Well, we played Thursday. We didn't give you everything we got, and then everybody was mad. I was mad, and my old teammate was like really mad about it, and then. And I asked a couple of them, like, and I asked them what we need to do different. They was like, let's just play hard and see it. So going to that game, everybody had the mindset, I don't care how it's going to be, but we're going to win this game. Means like that game was personal to me because Balo from Mali, I'm from Mali, so I don't want to be the loser in that competition. We all have a mindset we're going to win it, so. My hope is we had to have that mindset every single day to keep going, and then we had talent to do it, and then we really good enough to be able to be in an NCAA tournament.
You have played against now a few different players in the conference and overall from Mali.
Yeah.
How much pride do you take in that and just seeing some of your fellow countrymen playing at this level? And I know you want to be the best, don't get me wrong, but just having that connection, that's got to be cool for you.
I mean, yeah, it's good. I know a lot of them, and then we don't live far from each other, and then we all want to compete.
Right.
But, like when you know someone from your country, like doesn't matter how cool you are, but when you're in the court playing against each other, you had to give it all.
Tell us about growing up in Mali. What was that experience like before you came here to play?
I mean, for me personally, it was different because I got raised by a single mom, and she's never fun, and she was raising me and my 4 other siblings. Not having nothing, it was different. I had to just fight through a lot of things, and and I'm glad I'm here today in the U.S. to change my life.
When did you think about like basketball is my thing? When did you fall in love with the game?
Well, my sister used to play basketball, so every time I saw her coming back from a practice, and then she have a basketball dribbling and stuff. One time I decided to do it, and I was like, you know what, this is fun. and I went. I went to, I don't even remember exactly the day, but like one time I decided to go to her club or something, and then the next day I was like, you know what, I'm quitting because there's a lot of running. Yeah, I think that's when I fell in love with basketball.
And your height helps too.
Yep. I mean, my dad was really, really tall. I didn't get to see him, but one time he was really tall.
Yeah.
So.
It works out in your favor. There's no doubt about it. You got the chance to go back home just not that long ago, didn't you? Within the last year?
Yeah, it was great. I'm glad I get to go home. Before that, I didn't went home for like 6 years. Yeah, and then I had surgery. I didn't even tell my family about it. So
really?
when I went, they see that big scar on my knee, and my mom was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "Well, I had a surgery, but I decided to not tell you because you're gonna be worried about it."
Didn't want to worry her.
Yeah. Yep. If I would tell her, oh God, she'd probably be here by now.
Why'd you choose Oregon? Take us back in time. Why did you choose the Ducks?
Oh, that's a good question. I like that question. Well, when I was in high school, it was a lot of school recruiting me. So, I think it was my junior year. My junior year, I have a knee problem. It was not like ACL or anything. It was just like patella tendon. Every other school back off of me. Oregon was the only one there. Coach Mike and Coach Harmon, they always called me, "Hey man, we want you. We love your game. We want you to be part of our family." So that's all I'm all about, like family, you know.
Yeah.
Glad he's a Duck. Glad he's a Duck. Cafe AM 2-minute drill, that's coming up next. We'll have a full preview of Oregon and Cal tonight. Stay tuned. It's Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey Duck fans, the official 2022 Oregon football trading cards are now available exclusively at your local Oregon Jackson's food stores. The cards feature over 100 of your favorite Duck football student athletes from the 2022 season. Each pack contains 14 cards, and 1 out of every 10 packs will contain a special edition signed card, so be sure to collect them all to complete your set. Visit Jacksons.com for store locations.
Jacksons. Let's go.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Our 2-minute drill brought to you by Cafe Yum here on Duck Insider. And, well, of course, we have to talk about the big game tonight, 7 o'clock at Haas Pavilion against Cal. Joey Mack has your pregame at 6:30 p.m. Oregon, 67 in the net, up 1 spot from last week, which seemed impossible after that Arizona State loss. But after the Arizona win, you're kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. Cal is number 248 in the net, so this is a quad 3 game, and Oregon is 3-2 in quad 3 games. Can't afford another one. Let's take a look at the Pac-12 standings. This is a standalone game tonight. There is a real chance for upward mobility in the standings this week. Now, if you look at it, Arizona, Arizona State, UCLA, USC, they all play each other this week. Yeah, that's true. They play each other this week. So the best case scenario, and I don't think it's that crazy, is Oregon vaults into a tie for second by the end of the weekend with a 2-0 weekend. So you're in a standalone game tonight, which means probably everybody else in the conference is kind of watching you play. I think it's a little bit funny the way this works. Oregon has one of the loudest, most passionate, most watch out for us win against Arizona. And now the rest of the conference is sitting there on a Wednesday night, the night before a game, watching Oregon. And I'll tell you what, nobody wants to see Dana Altman figure it out. There's a real fear factor just from the name on the jersey at this point. And for what Dana Altman's done, nobody wants to see the Ducks figure it out, and they're all watching the Ducks today. So it's kind of like Oregon has a chance to set the tone for the rest of the weekend tonight. Either they win, and people are like, all right, we got to start watching out for the Ducks in the Pac-12 standings, or, all right, they're kind of pretenders. They're up and down the way they have been recently. It's kind of like you get the ball at the start of a college football overtime. You want to go down and score first. Make the other team feel the pressure. If you're playing golf, match play, you hit the birdie putt, all of a sudden your partner has to match it. So we'll see the way it goes, but an exciting game tonight against Cal and a real defining game. If they can come out and win this one, I'm going to hop on the bandwagon. I'm going to believe. I'm not there yet, but we'll have to see tonight. So let's take a preview of Cal. Now, Cal, don't let it fool you. They're a 3-win team. They've lost a lot, but they've been a different team since New Year's Eve. 2-2 in their last 4. Wins over Colorado. Colorado's pretty good. We saw what they did against the Ducks in Boulder. And also beat Stanford at Haas Pavilion. So 2-0 at home. They also suffered 2 losses. Now, why is this happening? I think it's because their team chemistry is getting a whole lot better. Now, Cal is averaging nearly 13 assists per game in their last 7 games. That's almost 4 more than they'd averaged the first 11 games. So they're sharing it well. They run a lot of pick and rolls. They have 2 big guys inside. And they have a freshman who's really stepping up in Grant Newell. Devin Askew, their leading scorer, he's been out 6 of the last 9. It's opened the door for Grant Newell, who's averaged 12 points over his last 4. Got to stop him. Defense intensity. 7 o'clock tonight, 6:30 with Joey on the pregame. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Mitchell. Back tomorrow on Duck Insider. Go Ducks, everybody. Deep breath before tonight.
Unused prescription opioid pain medicines can spell trouble. They can spell risk if taken by someone they weren't prescribed.